really becoming a passionate hockey fan. Always a Leafs fan, of course, back then. But watching the Islanders dominate, I was so much more an Edmonton Oilers guy, and I wanted to see these Gretzkys and Currys and Messiers and Andersons break through that wall that was the New York Islanders, and I hated them at the time. No appreciation then whatsoever. I mean, I'm a 10-year-old kid. What are you going to do? But I had zero appreciation for what guys like Trottier and Bossy and Gillies and Nystrom were doing.
And Potvin. I mean,
yeah.
we see him around the hall.
Billy Smith. And,
around the hall sometimes because he does the analytical work for the Sportsnet East Sens broadcast. And that's what makes it so special about that Islanders team is the collection of not great players, but collection of Hall of Famers on the same team altogether. And maybe, just maybe, the move to Brooklyn helps revive the Islanders.
I hope it does.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of hockey fans hope it does because we all have fond memories of what it was like when the Islanders were great.
Exactly, and that's what you're looking at it as now. You can be a Leafs fan, you can be a Habs fan, you can be an Anaheim Ducks fan, but as a hockey fan, you have to hope that it's a little bit of an infusion of enthusiasm for the franchise when they make that move.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I've been to the arena a few times for work, the old Barney Uniondale, and you look up at the banners and they have, Bossy, Trottier, and Billy Smith under the names of Potvin, and there's some history there. It's their old sort of rickety rink, but it feels like a hockey rink. There's nothing really fancy about it. There's an old sort of, it's almost like it looks like it was run by the Sopranos, like classic Italian deli across the road from the rink, and there's a Marriott hotel in the parking lot next to it, and it's just hockey. You get in there, and there's a low roof, and when it gets going, it can get really loud.
All right, we touched on John Tavares in that conversation with Brian Trottier, of course, and look, the statistics speak for themselves. Trottier talked about having watched him for 8 consecutive games in junior and the points he was putting up in, he said 6 games, but and I got to watch him regularly. Granted, he was the first player. Now there have been 3 with Connor McDavid being the most recent, and Aaron Ekblad a season ago in the OHL have been granted exceptional status, but Tavares, the first one that comes in, gets that status, and rightly so. When you hear a player at that age, he's 14 years old, he begins to apply for this exceptional status, you're thinking, you know what, kid, 16 is plenty early, wait your turn. Then you see him play in the league as a 15-year-old, again, much like Connor McDavid now, and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get this now. And here he is in the National Hockey League, but he's toiling away on Long Island with a brutal Islanders team. And I think hockey fans, to go back to that point, are being denied the chance to watch this great talent because it's being used in relative obscurity over there in Long Island. I wonder why he didn't at some point demand a trade or orchestrate something to not end up in Long Island. Maybe it speaks to his character. I don't know. And someday we'll chat with John Tavares about that very thing and find out.
Publix has fully furnished and beautifully up. What game is Colton Orr going to put you in a position to win offensively? I know that Phil Kessel wasn't good enough. Van Riemsdyk, Tyler Bozak weren't good enough. But your chances of battling back in that hockey game, regardless of what the shot clock says, regardless of what you've seen through half the game or 2/3 of the game, are far better with your most dominant offensive weapon on the ice. Find another way, in my opinion, to send a message. You put Colton Orr. I don't have the stat sheet in front of me, but I'm going to guess that that's more than, say, Tyler Bozak or maybe even Phil Kessel. I'm not sure which. I think actually Kessel played just over 15 minutes. But you take those guys out of the situational play, and you're not going to win too many hockey games. So if there's accountability to be shared here, I'm hoping Carlisle accepts his piece.
Well, I also think, too, that our TSN1050.ca poll didn't help. I think it cursed them all. We said that Kessel would score. We said there'd be 2 fights. What else was the biting? There was no biting. Okay, so we won on that one. But that first line, I believe, was a combined minus 12. I think all in all, you take a look, and as you mentioned, now Brandon Prost tried to go to Dion into fighting. They would have been teammates at one point in Calgary, I believe. And they just didn't seem to have any of that fight last night at all, Greg.
Well, in that situation,
need to see. They've got so many exciting players. Your buddy Matt Moulton, we talk about John Tavares. There are pieces in place. Joshua Bailey's an up-and-comer. I believe that sincerely. But you need to have winning in place before you get back to relevance.
Well, you need to have confident and reliable goaltending. And, they're kind of keep all the money through to the AHL.
Perfect place for him. Perfect place for him. The Cavaliers beat the Raptors 103-92 last night. The Blue Jays got hammered by Houston.